Item 6.3 is a resolution. To consider a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a lease agreement between the City of Lubbock and Lusky's Brothers Investments for real property located at 5034 Frankfurt Avenue for the Godeke Library.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. White, do you mind coming forward? Quincy, if I may. Quincy, I want to thank you and Dave Boer. You were both kind enough to give me a walk through yesterday or the day before to look at the location for public consumption. Can you tell us why this location or how we got to this location and what those considerations were?
Well, I think just as some background information, we began looking at relocating Godeke Library about 19 months ago, 20 months ago. We looked at a number of buildings over the last year and a half in that area. We're not able to secure any of those facilities for the library. Our last possibility was a building located at 82nd and Slide, and we're informed the first week of January that that building was not going to be available to us. And it was pretty easy to begin to look at the calendar and see that we had 7 months before September the 30th to find a home for Godeke Library. The Lusky building was available. We made the decision that time for discussion basically had to end. We had to make a decision and get the library moved, or we ran the risk of the library closing. And we just didn't want to even consider that as a possibility.
And Quincy, if I may, following up on that, that is the key why. I'll be supporting this tonight. I understand from speaking to you that you have reached out to the Friends of the Library to speak to the president of the organization, and she is in support along with the chair of the library board. Is that correct?
Yes, Jane Clausen, the director of the libraries. Prior to us posting this item for tonight, we felt it imperative that we discuss this with the Friends of the Library and the library board. Jane did that, I believe, on last Friday morning before the posting went up. Ms. Hines is here to speak for herself if you would like to have her, and the Friends of the Library also are in support of this initiative.
Quincy, I'll yield in just a moment because there may be other members that would like to speak to Ms. Hines. But to summarize, this was staff-driven, and the impetus is we have the clock ticking. God forbid we wind up where we don't have a library. We are in a situation where prior discussions have led to an emphasis that we've got to get out of the current location as quickly as possible. That deadline is the end of September, and this is the best way to avert a closure of that branch for some considerable time. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, this was absolutely staff-driven. Like I said, we just came to a point where we couldn't go any further in terms of due diligence. We had to make a decision. This was the decision that we made. And maybe just to get out in front of you just for a second, Councilman Klein, we have some information here. If you will look at the top portion for the citizens, the first year this represents $182,683 savings, and it does not include the reconciliation on common area maintenance that we get at the end of each year with our current landlord. And if you look at the bottom, and I won't go over each individual column, but it does show the cost of first year and second year because the rate is at $6 per square foot for those first 2 years, and then it goes to $9 per square foot for the last 3 years. And you can see that over the course of the 5-year agreement, there's an $800,000 savings. And again, we don't know what the common area maintenance is going to be until they reconcile at the end of each year.
Mr. White, I'll just close with this because I think there are other members that would like to weigh in. I support it. I think the numbers tell the story. I've asked you over the last couple of days to please plan on making sure in re-airs. I'm always surprised by how many people do watch Channel 2, but it's a great venue for the public, and if we can make sure that those numbers are as readily available as possible. Thank you.
Will do.
Anybody else? Mr. Grohl.
Mr. White, I just want to say thank you for the work that you've done on this. I think
most of us on this council have not been at all pleased with the lease arrangement we had at the old Godeke location. I sure didn't like it. I think it was very expensive for us. It's a great location for retail, but overpriced for a library. But I think this new location is it's going to be a very workable arrangement for us. I know it's not everything that we wanted, but it sure beats a storage container, and I think that's where we're headed if we didn't find a location. So I just applaud what you've done and very supportive. And I would like to ask Ms. Hines to come, if you would, and maybe share. You'd offered earlier to do a victory dance if we pass this, so I want that on the table. But would like your comments on this location.
Well, I want to thank the staff as well for finding a location. This was not easy, but they have sought, I think, a good location for us to consider. In talking with Jane, this is something that she feels is a good location. I think it's a positive step for the city and the libraries. And as I've said to you earlier, I'm excited about moving forward. So thank you, Quincy, for all your hard work on this.
Thank you. Ms. Gibson.
Well, I was actually going to call Ms. Hines up. She had sent us all a very nice email, and I appreciate that. And Mr. White, Ms. Clausen, Mr. Brewer, I really appreciate your hard work on this. I'm really thankful we have found something that we can all agree on. I think that it's wonderful to see, and I am thankful it's not going to have to go on the bond election.
Well, the board has been very grateful to work with the council. We've been able to meet with you. We've been able to discuss the issues. And I think we've all learned a lot in the process. And so that's been good. And I look forward to working as we move forward with the future libraries.
I'm glad we're moving forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Joy.
Yep, go ahead. Ms. Clausen, you want to come on up? I assume that other people are thinking what I'm thinking, and that is, what is it going to cost for us to get into that building, and how long will it take? I noticed that the lease agreement is from March 1st of 2014. So have you gotten that far yet?
No, I think we plan to meet shortly after this meeting to devise a plan. There is some minor construction that needs to be made to make it library ready, but we plan on moving much of the shelving and other equipment into the new location. So that will save some cost, and we'll get a plan together and move forward.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. Quincy, if I could get you to come up. And you made mention of it in reference to your chart here, and I don't mean to rain on your parade. You did outstanding work, and I believe this to be a viable solution. But I think we need to be very upfront with the public. You made mention of the common area maintenance or the true-up, and these savings over 5 years or even over 1 year do not reflect that. So
Nope.
It's going to be less savings.
It'll be
once
more.
that's
Well,
done.
but it doesn't reflect the common area maintenance on either location.
On either location.
Yes.
So that's point one. Number two,
The other thing, Councilman,
go ahead.
this also does not reflect if, in fact, we stayed in the location that we're in. It doesn't reflect the escalation clause that we would be confronted with.
Okay. So the other question, the other part of it is the cost it's going to, the amount of money it's going to cost us to get into the Lusky building. I don't know how accurate, because I'm not in that business, but it was made mention that it might cost between $100,000 to $125,000. Do you expect it to be anywhere near that to get the new location ready?
Yeah, I think it will be in excess of, I think you could very easily be between $100,000 and $175,000 to $200,000.
Okay. And I think that's important for us to let the public know that it's not just the cost savings that we'll get from moving from location A to location B, but there's also going to be costs associated with moving into the new location.
Yes.
Now, there are some other savings, though. My understanding is that for the first 6 months, no rent will be charged.
That's correct.
Would you explain that?
We negotiated a 66-month lease, and for the first 6 months, we will have no charge. Our first lease payment will be September the 1st, 2014, so we won't have double rent as we go through and prepare this building for.
And the lessor wasn't required to do that, but they did agree to doing that.
Yes,
And then the other is the option to purchase.
yes. After 5 years, we have the option to purchase.
Okay. And I really appreciate all the hard work and where you've gotten us, but I wanted to make sure the public knew all of the nuances. But aside from that, I'm kind of having a sense of deja vu. Even though I wasn't here when they moved the first library on over to the Strip Shopping Center. Deja vu in the sense that they were facing a crisis at the old location on, I guess it was Indiana.
Quaker.
And then they found a solution which was touted to be temporary in nature. And then here we are facing another crisis years later, and we found another temporary solution at this new location. And so, to me, in relation to this particular lease, even though there's a or an option to purchase, it seems to me we need to take a step back and really take a hard look at our library systems and its future. Because even though we have a purchase or an option to purchase, it might not be the best option come 5 years, taking into account where libraries are headed even today. So I'm going to strongly encourage the library board and the Friends of the Library and our staff to start that process now, so that in 5 years we're not at a crisis point again.
We agree with you wholeheartedly, 100%. I certainly would not want to go through this
But
process
again. It's a good deal
again.
for today.
And I think, I think there are many options down the road. This could be a permanent home for a library, and perhaps some of you will be on the council 5 years from now, 6 years from now, and someone may decide to build a second library the size of Patterson a little bit further west or south. So I think it puts us in a good position, but I do take heed to what you say, that we need to start acting on that good position today so that we don't end up here again in 5 years.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was here, and I think Todd was too, when we was at dead end trying to find a location for the Godeke, since the one on Quaker was so infested with mold and et cetera. And I don't think any of us at the council at the time liked the contract we had and how much money it was going to cost, but we were just at a place where we had to have a building, and that's where we moved in. And that building was, that company was moving into the mall, and so the building became vacant. I think this is, I know this is a whole lot better deal than we had when we got that one out there on Slide Road and 69th Drive. So, and also with this, and $6 a square foot, I mean, that has never been heard of in a building like that. And of course, I knew the Luskis real well. I used to shop in the building. I used to buy my boots there. And I know the building when it was built. So I think this is going to be a good deal for the library. And you know, other councils, and I know I won't be here, but other council members do have something that they can build on. And I truly believe that this is a building that we can build on. And of course, I mean, I think this is going to be stability for Godeke Library. And I want to commend you and Dave and the library board and all who were really instrumental in finding this building, because I be honest with you, I had thrown my hands up in the air and says, what are we going to do? And we do well know that the company that owns the building we're in, they're looking for a new tenant, and they want more money out of that new tenant. And this is going to save the citizens of Lubbock a whole lots of money, and plus have a library in Southwest Lubbock where they can go. So dittos, thank you so much for getting me out of the drag that I was in. I can't speak for anybody else, but I truly appreciate, and I think this is the best way to go right now. And so, thank you so much.
Anybody else from the dais?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
No, sir. Mr. Loomis. I'm sorry, I looked up at the clock for our answer.
I just want to say that Mr. White and Ms. Clausen get to answer all the questions, but we have staff member, particularly Dave Boer. He's underappreciated. He does all this type work for us, no matter what it is. He's a right-of-way agent. He does all those right-of-ways you do, and he's very underappreciated. I want him to be appreciated for this because he did all the legwork for this. Mr. Boer.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.